The Sound of Music is a story about Baroness Schraeder, an elegant and sophisticated socialite who is in a loving relationship with Captain Von Trapp, a widower with 7 children. The man has issues, and he grieves for his dead wife by micromanaging his household like a military unit. Baroness Schraeder travels all the way from Vienna to Salzburg to cultivate the relationship, and Captain Von Trapp profusely thanks her for giving him hope and joy.
Well, I would be an ungrateful wretch if I didn't tell you at least once that it was you who brought some meaning back into my life.
To be clear, this is not a strained interpretation of the film, because you can quote the witness directly on this.
Well, what would you call me, Georg?
Lovely. Charming, witty, graceful, the perfect hostess, and you're going to hate me for this. In a way, my savior.
Despite her wealthy background and her formal demeanor, Baroness Schraeder has a sense of humor, and obviously has fondness for the captain's children as well.
Edelweiss. You never told me how enchanting your children are.
However, the Baroness runs into a major obstacle because the man starts falling in love with his children's nanny, a girl named Maria. Now the man starts by eyeing the nanny, she draws his attention, and the man then begins to ogle the nanny with a ridiculous grin on his face. Before long, the man is dancing with the nanny in front of Baroness Schraeder, and it's a slightly awkward situation for the Baroness.
Oh, that was beautifully done. What a lovely couple you make.
Yes, I think it's time the children said goodnight.
And even though the man was not blatantly cheating, he was still micro-cheating, and the Baroness could sense that. Now, just to be clear, this isn't to say that the nanny is evil. Baroness Schraeder recognizes that the nanny is young, naive, and inexperienced. Therefore, the Baroness tactfully explained to the nanny that she had inadvertently weaponized her femininity and was therefore at risk of crossing a line. The Baroness's point is that even if the young nanny didn't have nefarious intentions, the nanny was still being naive in assuming that Captain Von Trapp would be immune to her inadvertent charm. But since the nanny herself is pretty young, innocent, and naive, all this begs the million-dollar question. Who was responsible for throwing this nanny, this human grenade, into the Baroness's relationship? The answer is that Baroness Schraeder, a smart and sophisticated lady, had indirectly met her match in the Reverend Mother of the local church. Unbeknownst to the Baroness, the Reverend Mother and the other nuns in the church had been plotting to get rid of Maria, who was undisciplined and plainly a poor fit for the church. So the Reverend Mother needed to fire Maria from the church, and all organizations need to fire people from time to time. But how does a church fire somebody in a Christ-like manner? Well, the wonderful thing about Christianity is that when a church needs to fire somebody, it typically performs the dirty deed with a thick veneer of compensatory civility and mystical overtones, honed over centuries of deliberate practice. The Reverend Mother looks like a grizzled veteran who has vetted a lot of postulants and has plenty of experience in separating the wheat from the chaff. So she knows, better than anybody else, how to handle a misfit like Maria. The Reverend Mother's appearance may seem anachronistic at first glance, but she cleverly maintains a veneer of spiritual authority, a certain ecclesiastical capital that's been accumulated over decades of service, which she can afford to spend from time to time to get rid of problematic people.
But I've pledged my life to God. I've pledged my life to His service.
My daughter, if you love this man, it doesn't mean you love God less.
And so even after the nanny reveals the existence of the Baroness, the Reverend Mother is still able to deploy her hard-earned gravitas to nudge the young and impressionable nanny into returning to the Von Trapp home. So to protect the church's institutional interests, the Reverend Mother formally fires Maria in a very civilized manner.
You have to live the life you were born to live.
Climb every mountain.
search high and low, follow every byway, every path you know.
It's an awesome song, and it makes you think about the millions of times the Reverend Mother might have used a similar technique to weed out past postulants who didn't make the grade. Well, despite Baroness Schraeder's best efforts to rescue the relationship and to build rapport with the man's 7 children, those efforts didn't fully work out. And so eventually the nanny's effect on the man was just too great, and the Baroness realizes it. So, being a smart, sophisticated lady, Baroness Schraeder's final appearance epitomizes how to exit a relationship with real dignity and class. So you notice that in her final meeting, she wears an ostentatious red dress, an outfit that is calculated to remind Captain Von Trapp just one more time of what he's giving up if he chooses the nanny over her. But once it becomes crystal clear that the captain has chosen the nanny, Baroness Schraeder concedes gracefully and ends the relationship in a classy manner.
I've enjoyed every moment we've had together. I do thank you for that. Now, if you'll forgive me, I'll go inside, pack my little bags, and return to Vienna where I belong. Auf Wiedersehen, darling.
After that touching scene, the man immediately marries the nanny. But his life soon starts falling apart right after the wedding. First, Austria gets annexed by Germany. Second, the man's eldest daughter discovers that her boyfriend is a Nazi, but the nanny isn't quite able to give meaningful advice. And third, the Von Trapp family is forced to abandon their mansion and flee the country by foot over the mountains. Now, this is not to say that the nanny is a bad wife or a bad character. No, on the contrary, the nanny is an honest person, she's good with the children, and she can sing quite well. But that said, given the complicated challenges of navigating a world in chaos, I still think that the man may have been better able to navigate those challenges if he had the sophisticated Baroness Schraeder by his side to help him solve life's problems. Instead, the man married the nanny, where he unwittingly ended up solving the Reverend Mother's problems, rather than his own. So, the moral of the story is that it's very important to be careful about who you marry. If you marry the right person, a lot of good things can happen. But if you marry the wrong person, there might be some days where you wish you were on the Titanic when it sank. The Sound of Music is a great film, and best of all, there is a universal consensus that the film is family friendly. So by all means, put your little kids in front of the TV and let them watch, reflect, and learn.